The stars shone bright above Susan Clark's mountain cabin in Colorado. She sat on her porch, telescope aimed at the night sky, recording data as she had done every Friday for the past 15 years. Susan wasn't just stargazing for fun. As Chief Communications Officer at the International Space Agency, she was always working even during her rare weekends off. Her computer beeped. Susan looked down at the screen and froze. The signal pattern she was receiving didn't match anything in her database. It was too regular, too precise to be natural. She checked her equipment twice, then called her boss. "Director Harris, I think you need to see this," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Within 24 hours, every major observatory on Earth confirmed Susan's discovery. The signal came from near Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. It wasn't random noise or a glitch. Someone or something was reaching out. News spread like wildfire. Religious leaders spoke of divine signs. Military forces went on high alert. Stock markets crashed, then soared as people realized what this meant. Humanity was not alone. 7 days after Susan's discovery, it happened. A massive ship, smooth and silver, appeared in Earth's orbit. Smaller craft broke away from it, forming a perfect ring around the planet. Television signals worldwide were interrupted by a single message, broadcast in over 50 human languages. "We come in peace. We are the Galactic Council. We wish to speak with your leaders." World governments scrambled to respond. After hurried meetings, they agreed to host the aliens in Geneva, Switzerland. President Alan Wright would represent the United States, along with a team of scientists, military advisors, and diplomats. Susan was among those chosen to attend. She sat in the third row of the Grand Assembly Hall, watching as the doors opened to admit the alien delegates. They weren't what anyone expected. The lead ambassador, who called itself Vector, looked like a walking crystal formation, reflecting rainbow light with each movement. Behind it came creatures that seemed made of living metal, swirling gas, and in one case what appeared to be pure energy contained in a floating mechanical suit. Vector spoke in perfect English. "We have watched your world for many cycles. You have reached the threshold. You are ready to join us among the stars." The crystal being explained that the Galactic Council included 17 advanced civilizations. They offered Earth membership. Along with technology, knowledge, and protection, human diseases could be cured, energy would become unlimited, poverty could end. There was just one condition. For the first 100 years, Earth would be a protectorate. They could travel to nearby star systems, but not venture beyond certain boundaries. They would have a voice in council matters, but limited voting rights. Some technologies would be restricted, until you are ready. Most world leaders seemed eager to sign. President Wright shook Vector's crystalline appendage while cameras flashed. "Jack." Wilson watched from the back of the room, his eyes narrowed. The retired military intelligence analyst had seen enough negotiations to know when someone was hiding something. These aliens were being too generous. They seemed almost desperate for Earth to join them. Later, at the reception, Jack moved through the crowd toward his daughter Kate. She worked as a xenolinguistics specialist and had been helping translate some of the aliens' communications. "Something's off," Jack whispered when he reached her. "Notice how they keep talking about protection? Protection from what?" Kate frowned. "I noticed something else. Whenever anyone asks about other parts of the galaxy, the regions beyond council space, they change the subject." "Exactly," Jack said. "And did you see how they reacted when the Chinese premier mentioned our nuclear capabilities? They weren't disgusted or worried. They were impressed." Over the next 3 days, Earth's nations debated the Council's offer. Jack tried to raise his concerns, but few would listen. The promise of advanced technology and interstellar travel was too tempting. 1 week after first contact, Earth officially joined the Galactic Council. The celebrations were massive. In Times Square, people danced as alien ships performed aerial displays overhead. In Moscow, Beijing, and London, massive crowds gathered to watch the signing ceremony on giant screens. Susan found herself working directly with council technicians to upgrade Earth's communication systems. The technology was amazing, far beyond anything humans had developed. Within days, they had established instant communication links across the solar system. "Your species adapts quickly," said Zor-El, a metallic being assisting Susan. "Most new members take months to understand our basic systems." "Humans are good at learning," Susan replied, "especially when motivated." "Yes," Zor-El said, its voice suddenly quieter. "That is why we chose you." 6 months after first contact, the changes were dramatic. Cancer and heart disease were becoming things of the past. Fusion generators provided cheap, clean energy. The ITER, first human-built starship, using Council technology, prepared for its maiden voyage to Alpha Centauri. Yet restrictions remained firmly in place. Council advisors carefully monitored all technological upgrades. When scientists at MIT tried to adapt alien energy systems for weapons research, Council representatives shut down their lab immediately. Jack Wilson, now working as a consultant for the newly formed Earth Defense Ministry, collected these incidents in a private file. He added reports from Kate, who noticed the Council representatives often spoke among themselves about something called the silence, always with noticeable fear. One evening, Jack invited Susan to his home in Virginia. They sat on his deck, watching Council ships drift across the night sky like new stars. "They're running from something," Jack said after Susan had looked at his evidence. "Something out there terrifies them." Susan thought about Zor-El's strange comment months ago. "Why choose us specifically? What's special about humans?" "I think I know," Jack replied, sliding a tablet across the table. On it was a compilation of Earth's history: wars, disasters, plagues, and catastrophes. Next to each was humanity's response: rebuilding, adapting, surviving. The Council species evolved in stable environments. When this silence started expanding into their territory, they didn't know how to fight. But humans, Jack looked up at the alien ships overhead. "Humans have been fighting to survive since we climbed down from the trees." Susan felt a chill run through her. "They don't want us as students. They want us as soldiers." Jack nodded, grimly. "And whatever's out there that scares 17 advanced civilizations is getting closer. The question is, what happens when it reaches us?" As if in answer, a new alert came through on Susan's phone. Council ships were detecting unusual energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Something was approaching. Something that didn't match any known Council vessel. The real first contact was about to begin. 3 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. The planet had changed in ways no one could have imagined before first contact. Gleaming towers of alien materials rose in major cities. Diseases that once killed millions were now treated with simple injections. Cars and planes gave way to gravity-defying vehicles that needed no fuel. But Jack Wilson's concerns had only grown stronger. From his small office in the Pentagon basement, he collected reports from around the solar system. Each one added to his suspicion that the Council was hiding something big. His daughter Kate now worked on Mars Colony 1, helping build translation systems for the growing human presence in space. Her latest message was coded, something they had arranged for sharing sensitive information. "Dad, the Council members are nervous," her message read. "They triple-checked our defense systems last week. When I asked why, they said it was routine, but I saw their fear." Jack added this to his growing file. He had allies now, people in important positions who shared his doubts. Susan Clark, now head of Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Program, was his most valuable contact. Susan sat alone in her lab at the Lunar Observatory, a massive facility on the moon's far side. Her team had gone to sleep hours ago, but she stayed to finish one more test. The new detection array, built with Council technology but modified by her team, was scanning farther into space than humans had ever seen before. The computer beeped. Susan looked up and saw patterns on her screen that made her heart race. She was intercepting communications between Council ships, communications they didn't know humans could detect. Susan ran the data through a decryption program she had secretly developed. Most of the message remained scrambled, but certain phrases appeared clearly. "Silence border breached at Sector 7. 3 more systems gone dark. Containment failing? Susan downloaded the data to a secure drive and called her assistant, Peter Hammond. "Meet me at the shuttle bay in 20 minutes, she said. "Tell no one." Meanwhile, on Mars, engineer Ryan Cooper was fixing communication relays in the colony's main hub. The council advisors had given strict instructions about the system's design, but Ryan had always been the type to take things apart and see how they worked. As he reconnected the main server, something strange happened. His access panel showed files that weren't supposed to be there, council databases temporarily exposed during the system reset. Ryan hesitated only a second before copying everything he could. The system would fix itself in minutes, closing this accidental backdoor. His fingers flew over the keyboard, grabbing star charts, ship locations, and something labeled quarantine zones. The files disappeared from his screen as suddenly as they had appeared. Ryan sat back, wondering if he should report what happened. Then he opened the first file he had copied. It was a map of the galaxy, but unlike any he had seen. Huge sections were marked in red, with dates beside them. The oldest date was over 10,000 years ago. The newest was just 3 months back. Each red area was labeled "Lost to Silence." At Earth Defense Command in Colorado, Admiral Sophia Reed reviewed reports from Susan and Ryan. What they found matched other bits of intelligence gathered by Jack Wilson and others. Together, they painted a disturbing picture. "The Council is at war," Admiral Reed told the small group gathered in her secure conference room. "They've been fighting and losing for thousands of years against something they call the Silence." Jack Wilson nodded. "They came to us because they're desperate. Look at these technological requests they've made." He displayed a list on the wall screen. "Weapon systems, military AI, combat psychology. They're studying how we fight." Susan pulled up the star charts Ryan had discovered. "Whatever this Silence is, it's getting closer. This region was lost just 3 months ago, only 30 light years from the edge of Council space." Peter Hammond, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "But why us? The Council has 17 species, most more advanced than humans." "Because we're different," Admiral Reed said. "Look at Council history. None of their member species evolved as predators. They developed in peaceful environments with few natural threats. Humans are the opposite," Jack agreed. "We're the only Council species that still has weapons designed to kill our own kind. The only ones who developed nuclear bombs. The only ones who know how to fight a total war." The room fell silent as everyone considered this. Humans, the newcomers, the primitives, were valuable to the Council precisely because of the qualities the aliens pretended to dislike. The meeting was interrupted when alarms blared throughout the base. On the main screen, a communication from Pluto Outpost appeared. The young officer's face looked pale. "Admiral, we've detected multiple objects entering the solar system. They don't match any known Council design. They're not responding to hails." Admiral Reed straightened her uniform. "How many?" "At least 50, ma'am. And they're big. Alert all Earth forces. Tell the Council representatives we need to speak immediately." She turned to the others in the room. "It seems our time just ran out." Within hours, Council ships filled Earth orbit. The alien representatives, usually so calm and measured, moved with urgent purpose. Schools and businesses closed as governments worldwide declared states of emergency. Jack watched from the Pentagon as Vector, the crystalline ambassador, addressed an emergency meeting of world leaders. For the first time, the alien spoke without its usual diplomatic smoothness. "What approaches is what we call the Void Collective," Vector said, its crystal body pulsing with dim red light. "They are the reason we sought your world." "Why didn't you warn us?" President Wright demanded, his face flushed with anger. "Because we feared your reaction," replied Vector. "Your species responds to threats differently than ours. You do not run. You prepare to fight. And preparation looks like aggression to the Void. We feared you would draw their attention sooner." "So you kept us in the dark?" The president's voice rose. "Used our resources while hiding the real danger. We hoped there would be more time," the crystal being said. "The Void has never advanced this quickly before." Jack looked at his phone as a message from Kate came through from Mars Colony. Unknown ships in orbit. Council forces mobilizing. At 2. Lunar Observatory, Susan and Peter worked frantically to track the incoming fleet. The strange ships had slowed their approach but continued steadily toward Earth. "We need to know what we're dealing with," Susan said. "What makes these void beings so unstoppable?" Peter pulled up the limited data they had. According to Council records, the void doesn't communicate. They simply appear, take what they want, and leave nothing alive. Susan thought about this. 17 advanced civilizations and none found a way to fight back? "That's just it," Peter said. "The Council species never evolved to fight. Their natural response to threat is to flee, to hide. Humans are different." Susan looked out the window at Earth hanging in the black sky. "Let's hope different is enough." At Earth Defense Command, Admiral Reed prepared humanity for its first interstellar war. The Council had finally removed all restrictions, offering their full technological knowledge. Weapons were being upgraded, ships retrofitted, soldiers trained for space combat. It was a race against time, with the unknown enemy growing closer each day. But for the first time since joining the Council, humans were doing what they did best, preparing to fight for survival. Captain Olivia Daniels stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, Earth's newest warship. 5 years after first contact, humans had learned to build vessels using Council technology, but with their own improvements. The Horizon was faster and better, armed than standard Council ships. And unlike Council vessels, it was built for battle, not exploration. "Captain, we're picking up strange readings near Neptune," said Eric Miller, her first officer. His fingers moved across the control panel, bringing up detailed scans on the main screen. Olivia frowned. The energy signatures didn't match anything in their database. "Are any Council ships scheduled to be in this sector?" "No, ma'am. We're the only patrol assigned to the outer system this week. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're investigating an anomaly." Olivia adjusted the ship's course, "But keep our weapons hot just in case." As the Horizon approached Neptune's orbit, the strange readings grew stronger. Suddenly, the space ahead of them seemed to fold, as if someone had pinched the fabric of reality. Out of this impossible distortion emerged 5 ships, each larger than the Horizon. They were unlike any vessels Olivia had seen before. Black and angular, their surfaces absorbed light rather than reflected it. No running lights, no visible engines, just perfect darkness shaped into geometric forms. "Open all communication channels," Olivia ordered. "Unknown vessels. This is Captain Olivia Daniels of the Earthship Horizon. Please identify yourselves." "No," response came. "Try the Council languages," Olivia said to her communications officer. One by one, they broadcast greetings in the 17 languages of the Galactic Council. Still nothing. "They're just watching us," Eric whispered. "Captain, we should retreat," Olivia hesitated. The standing orders were clear: avoid conflict, gather information. But something about these ships made her skin crawl. "Hold position," she said. "Let's see what they do." For 10 long minutes, the strange ships simply observed the Horizon. Then, as suddenly as they had appeared, they vanished, the space around them folding again until they were gone. "Get me Earth Command," Olivia said, her voice tight. "Now." Back on Earth, Admiral Reed received Olivia's report with growing alarm. Similar sightings had occurred near Mars and Europa in the past week. Each time, the strange ships appeared, observed, and left without responding to communication. The Admiral immediately contacted the Council representatives demanding an emergency meeting. They gathered in the secure room beneath the United Nations building in New York. For the first time, all 17 Council species sent their highest leaders, not just ambassadors. "We knew this day would come," said Jolan, the gaseous entity, who served as Council speaker. Its containment suit glowed with swirling blue light. "The Void Collective has found your solar system." "No more secrets," Admiral Reed demanded. "Tell us everything." The Council leaders looked at each other, then Jolan continued. "The Void first appeared in our galaxy 30,000 years ago, They came from somewhere beyond the great emptiness between galaxies. We do not know what they want or why they take worlds. Take worlds? President Wright asked. They strip planets of all resources. Metals, water, organic matter. Nothing is left but bare rock. No life survives. The gaseous being's light pulsed dimly. We have lost hundreds of worlds. To them, entire species wiped out. How do they fight? Asked General Samuel Baker, Earth's top military commander. What weapons do they use? That is what we do not understand, said Vector, its crystal body shimmering. They do not fight as you would define it. They simply take. When our ships attack, the void vessels vanish and reappear elsewhere. Our weapons pass through empty space. But you must have tried to communicate with them, Susan Clark said. She now served as Earth's Xenocommunications Director. For thousands of years, replied a being made of living metal. They never respond. So we're dealing with an enemy that can't be hit, can't be talked to, and wants everything we have, General, Baker summarized. Wonderful. There is one thing we have observed, Jolan added. The Void first sends scouts, as they are doing now. They study a system before they attack in force. We usually have between 30 and 60 days after the first sighting. The room fell silent as the humans absorbed this information. 2 months at most to prepare for an enemy that 17 advanced civilizations had failed to stop. President Wright broke the silence. Why didn't you tell us this from the beginning? We could have been preparing for 5 years. Because your species reacts to threats differently, Vector said. You do not flee or hide as ours do. You build weapons. You prepare to fight. We feared such preparations would attract the Void's attention sooner. Admiral Reed's face flushed with anger. So you left us vulnerable? We hoped there would be more time, Zolan said, its light dimming to a faint glow. The Void has never moved this quickly before. Jack Wilson, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. You said we react differently. That's why you sought us out, isn't it? You weren't being charitable by inviting Earth to join the Council. You needed us. The Council leaders did not deny it. Your history shows a remarkable ability to survive against overwhelming odds, Jolan admitted. No Council species has ever faced extinction-level threats and survived. Humans have done so multiple times. Well, said Admiral Reed, standing up, we're all facing extinction now, and I suggest we start acting like it. No more restrictions, no more secrets. We need every piece of technology, every scrap of information you have on the Void. The Council agreed. Within hours, data began flowing to Earth scientists and military leaders. What they learned was both fascinating and terrifying. The Void ships used some form of space-folding technology that let them appear and disappear at will. They seemed to communicate instantly across vast distances. And they had never, in recorded history, left a living thing on any world they took. At the Lunar Observatory, Susan and Peter worked around the clock, analyzing the new data. There has to be a pattern, Susan said, her eyes red from lack of sleep. Nothing acts randomly in nature. Peter pointed to a star chart showing Void attacks over the past 1,000 years. Look at this. They always hit resource-rich systems first, and they never attack a heavily defended system until they've taken everything around it. They're being efficient, Susan realized. Like predators conserving energy. On Mars Colony, Ryan Cooper used Council data to build simulations of Void technology. He worked with Kate Wilson to understand how the space folding drives might function. If they can fold space, Ryan said, there must be a moment when they're vulnerable, when they're halfway between spaces. Kate nodded. We just need to know when that moment comes. At Earth Defense Command, General Baker assembled a new kind of fighting force. Earth had never built true warships before, but now the orbital shipyards worked non-stop. The new vessels combined Council technology with human military thinking, redundant systems, heavy armor, and powerful weapons. Admiral Reed oversaw the training of Earth's first deep space combat units. The Council races don't understand fighting to the last breath, she told her officers. We do. That's our advantage. Captain Daniels and the Horizon were recalled to Earth to be upgraded with new weapons designed specifically to combat the Void's technology. As engineers swarmed over her ship, Olivia reviewed the battle plans with her crew. "We don't run," she told them. "We don't surrender. If the Void wants our world, they'll have to go through us first." Across Earth, humans prepared for war in ways the Council races found disturbing. Civilian evacuation plans, hardened bunkers, last-ditch defenses. To the Council, it looked like preparing for defeat. To humans, it was refusing to accept extinction. 30 days after the first sighting, the Void ships returned. This time, there were hundreds of them, emerging from folded space throughout the solar system. The battle for humanity's home had begun. Dr. William Foster hadn't slept in 3 days. The physicist worked in a lab deep under the Swiss mountains, surrounded by the best minds from Earth and the Council. On his screen, complex equations described how the Void ships folded space. "Think I see it," he said, pointing to a pattern in the data. "There's a 5-second window when they're vulnerable, between leaving one point in space and arriving at another." His wife, Dr. Grace Foster, looked up from her own work. As Earth's top weapons specialist, she had been tasked with finding a way to fight the seemingly unstoppable enemy. 5 seconds isn't much, she said, but it might be enough. Together, they designed a new weapon, a disruptor that could interfere with the Void's space-folding technology during that brief window of vulnerability. "Will it work?" asked Admiral Reed when they presented their findings. "In theory," William said, "but we need to test it against an actual Void ship." "That's a problem we can solve," the Admiral replied. "The Void has been probing our defenses. Around Mars, we'll set a trap." In orbit above Earth, massive shipyards worked at full capacity. Chief Engineer Natalie Chen oversaw the construction of 50 new warships, each incorporating both Council technology and uniquely human innovations. "Council ships are built for efficiency," she explained to visiting alien officials. "Ours are built to take a beating and keep fighting." The aliens watched with a mixture of fascination and horror as humans installed backup systems, armor plating, and weapons that the Council had never considered necessary. "Your ships will be slow," one, metallic, being observed. "But they'll survive the first hit," Natalie replied. "Sometimes that's all you need." At the military training facility in Colorado, General Samuel Baker prepared Earth's first deep space combat units. The soldiers trained in zero-gravity combat, ship-to-ship boarding actions, and emergency procedures. "The Council races evolved, without predators," he explained during a strategy session. "They don't understand fighting when retreat is impossible. We do. That's our edge." Jack Wilson worked with a team analyzing Void behavior patterns. "They think like predators," he told Admiral Reed. "They take the easy targets first, building up resources before tackling harder prey." "So they expect us to be easy," Reed said. "Exactly. The Council species always run. The Void has never faced an enemy that stands and fights." On Mars, the trap was set. Ryan Cooper and Kate Wilson had modified a small outpost with sensors to detect Void ships. Hidden nearby, Captain Daniels waited, in the upgraded Horizon, now equipped with the Foster's experimental disruptor. "Contact," Eric Miller said quietly as the bridge sensors came alive. 3 Void ships approaching the outpost. "Hold position," Olivia ordered. "Let them get closer." The 3 black ships appeared suddenly above the Martian outpost. As before, they simply observed, making no attempt to communicate or attack. They didn't notice the Horizon hiding behind Mars's smaller moon, Deimos. "They're scanning the outpost," Eric reported. "Now's our chance. Fire disruptor," Olivia commanded. A beam of energy, invisible to the human eye, shot from the Horizon toward the nearest Void ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, as the alien vessel began to fold space to depart, it shuddered. The space folding effect collapsed, and for the first time, a Void ship was trapped. "It worked," Eric shouted. "They can't jump away." "All weapons target that ship," Olivia ordered. The Horizon unleashed its full arsenal. Missiles and energy beams slammed into the trapped Void vessel. Its black surface cracked, revealing something beneath that absorbed all light. The other two void ships immediately vanished. The damaged one struggled, trying again to fold space. This time it succeeded, disappearing just as the Horizon's second volley launched. "Did we destroy it?" Olivia asked. "No, but we heard it," Eric replied, checking the sensor readings. "We actually heard it." News of the successful test spread rapidly. For the first time in 30,000 years, someone had damaged a void ship. The council representatives couldn't believe it. "In all our history, we never found their weakness," Vector said, its crystal body glowing brightly with excitement. "You never looked for one," Jack Wilson replied. "You always ran." With proof that the void could be fought, Earth's preparations accelerated. Dr. Grace Foster mass-produced disruptor weapons for the fleet. Dr. William Foster refined the technology, extending the window of vulnerability from 5 seconds to 15. The Council, inspired by human determination, began to offer more than just technology. The ancient aquatic species known as the Murr sent warriors of their own, massive beings evolved from ocean predators, armed with Council weapons. "For too long we have fled," the Murr representative burbled through its translator. "We will stand with humans who know no retreat." Other Council species followed. Not all. Some still believed running was the only option, but enough to form a true alliance rather than just a one-sided technological exchange. At Earth Defense Command, Admiral Reed presented the battle plan to President Wright and the Allied Council leaders. It was aggressive in a way that shocked many of the aliens. "Instead of defending Earth directly, we'll engage the Void Fleet near Saturn," she explained, pointing to the holographic display. "We'll use the disruptors to trap their ships, then hit them with everything we have." "But what if they break through?" asked a Council representative. "Then we fall back to Mars, then the Moon, and finally Earth itself," Reed replied. "We fight for every inch of space." "You're planning for defeat," Zolan observed, its gaseous form swirling anxiously in its containment suit. "No," said President Wright. "We're refusing to accept extinction." There's a difference. As the day of battle approached, a strange calm settled over Earth. Humans had faced extinction before, from nuclear war, from climate change, from asteroid impacts. Each time, they had prepared, adapted, and survived. "We're good at this," Jack told his daughter Kate during a rare quiet moment. "Planning for the worst while hoping for the best. It's what humans do." Kate looked out the window at the stars. "What if our best isn't good enough?" "Then we make sure the Void remembers the fight," Jack said simply. The final piece of the plan came from an unexpected source. Susan Clark and Peter Hammond, analyzing Void communication patterns, discovered something the Council had missed in 30,000 years of observation. "They do communicate," Susan reported to Admiral Reed. "Not with sounds or signals we recognized, but through subtle quantum fluctuations. They talk to each other constantly." "Can we understand what they're saying?" Reed asked. "Not yet," Peter replied, "but we can copy their method. We can make them hear us." "Why would that matter?" asked one of the Council scientists. Susan smiled grimly. "Because in 30,000 years you've never tried scaring them back." The day came. The Void Fleet, over 1,000 ships strong, emerged from folded space near Saturn. Earth's combined fleet waited, led by Admiral Reed aboard the flagship ESS Defiance. The newly upgraded ships formed a wall of steel and energy, while Captain Daniels and the Horizon served as the vanguard. As the Void ships approached, instead of opening fire immediately, Admiral Reed transmitted a message using the quantum communication method Susan had discovered. The message was simple. The complete history of human warfare, from stone tools to nuclear weapons, to the theoretical designs for weapons humanity had considered, but chosen not to build. For the first time in recorded history, the Void Collective paused. Their ships held position, not advancing or retreating. Then came a response, the first communication ever received from the Void. "You threaten extinction." Admiral Reed answered with equal simplicity, "Not yours, unless you make it necessary." The two fleets faced each other across the void of space, neither moving. Hours passed, then days. The council representatives expected annihilation at any moment, knowing the void had never negotiated in 30,000 years of expansion. Finally, another message came from the void. Terms. Mutual borders, Reed replied. You stay in your space, we stay in ours. Violation means war. Another long pause. Then, acceptable. Slowly, the void fleet began to fold away, ship by ship, until the space around Saturn was empty again. The battle that should have ended humanity never began. The council races were shocked. What happened? Asked Vector, its crystal form pulsing with confusion. Why did they retreat? Admiral Reed looked at the empty space where the enemy had been. They recognize themselves in us, she said quietly. The capacity for violence, yes, but also the choice to contain it. Our silence wasn't surrender. It was restraint. 1 year passed since the day the Void Fleet retreated from Saturn. Earth had changed in ways few could have imagined before. Once just a newcomer to the Galactic Council, humanity now stood as its defender. Admiral Sophia Reed looked out the window of her new office on the space station Freedom, built at the edge of what was now called the Boundary. On one side lay Council space, on the other Void territory. Earthships patrolled this line constantly. The latest patrol reports show no Void activity near the Boundary, said her aide, handing her a data tablet. Reed nodded. They're keeping their word. So far. The agreement with the Void had shocked the Council races. In 30,000 years, the Void had never negotiated, never compromised, never stopped their endless expansion, until they met humans. Dr. Linda Murphy, Earth's leading xenopsychologist, had developed a theory about why. The Void didn't fear our weapons, she explained to the Council representatives. They recognized themselves in us. They saw another predator species, one that could understand boundaries. The Council headquarters, once located in a distant star system, had moved to Earth orbit. The massive ring station housed representatives from all 17 Council species, and now an 18th representative from Earth. Jack Wilson served as humanity's voice on the Council. His years of suspicion had earned him respect among both humans and aliens. Today he addressed the full Council about the new defense strategy. For too long the Council ran from the Void, he said, his voice firm. Each time you abandoned outer worlds to save inner ones. Each time the Void grew stronger while you grew weaker. The Council members shifted uncomfortably, but did not deny it. Humans don't work that way, Jack continued. We defend our borders. All of them. Every Council world now has Earthships in orbit. Every colony has human soldiers training local forces. We don't give up ground, not ever. Some Council representatives found human stubbornness disturbing. Others saw it as their salvation. The Mer stand with humans, said the massive aquatic being, its translator converting bubbling sounds to human speech. We too were once predators before we built cities. We remember the old ways. Other species began to change as well, learning from humans how to defend themselves rather than simply flee from danger. On Mars Colony, now a major manufacturing center, Kate Wilson and Ryan Cooper had married. They led a research team studying Void technology based on the data collected during the brief battle near Saturn. They're not so different from us, Ryan said, examining a piece of salvaged Void material. They just took a different path. Kate nodded. Both predator species, both adapted to survive, but they expanded without limits, taking everything they could. Humans learned to set boundaries. At the Lunar Observatory, Susan Clark continued to monitor communication between Void ships. Over months of study, her team had begun to understand their language, not words, but patterns of quantum fluctuations that carried meaning. They talk about us constantly, she told Peter Hammond as they reviewed the latest intercepts. They call us the silence beyond the line. Peter looked confused. Silence? We're not silent, we communicate all the time. Susan smiled. Not to them. When the Void approached other species, those species begged, threatened, pleaded. Constant noise. Humans were different. We prepared in silence, then offered clear terms. They respected that. Captain Olivia Daniels still commanded the Horizon, now the flagship of the Boundary Fleet. Her ship had been upgraded again, incorporating some void technology reverse-engineered by the Fosters. "Patrol to Sector 7 complete," she reported, to Earth Command. No boundary violations. Her first officer, Eric Miller, joined her on the observation deck. "Do you think they'll stay on their side forever, Captain?" Olivia watched the stars. "No, nothing lasts forever, but they'll think twice before crossing the line." The greatest change came to the Council itself. For thousands of years it had been an alliance of convenience, each species primarily concerned with its own survival. Now, with humanity showing another way, it began to function as a true united government. Dr. William and Grace Foster had opened a research academy on the Moon, where scientists from all Council species worked together on new technology. Their latest project was a defense shield that combined human military thinking with the varied scientific traditions of the other species. "We're taking the best of everyone," Grace told a group of visiting officials. "Human determination, mirror strength, Council efficiency, and even a bit of void innovation." President Wright retired from office, his place taken by a woman who had been an astronaut before first contact. Her first address to the combined human and alien audience reflected the new reality. "5 years ago we were alone," she said. "Then we found we were part of a community of worlds. Now we have learned that even those who seem most alien can understand reason, if backed by resolve. The stars are not just filled with friends or enemies, but with others finding their own path among the same stars we share." Admiral Reed sometimes thought about the moment when everything could have gone differently, when the Void Fleet faced Earth ships near Saturn. If either side had opened fire, the solar system might now be a dead zone. "We were lucky," she said to Jack Wilson during a rare quiet moment. "Not lucky," Jack replied. "Prepared. Humans have always understood that you sometimes have to show strength to avoid using it. On the borders of Council space, human ships maintained their vigilant patrol. They carried weapons but rarely used them. Their very presence, their readiness was usually enough. Other species began to join these patrols, learning the human way of maintaining peace through strength." Dr. Linda Murphy continued her study of both human and void psychology. "We're watching evolution in action," she told her students. "The Council species are learning to defend themselves. The void is learning to respect boundaries. And humans are learning to use our warlike heritage for protection rather than conquest." The void remained a mystery in many ways. They never opened diplomatic relations or exchanged cultural information, but they maintained the boundary agreement with perfect precision. Susan Clark eventually decoded enough of their communication to understand a conversation between two void commanders about humans. One transmitted what translated roughly as, "Why not take their worlds? Rich resources." The other replied, "Because they would burn their own worlds before surrendering them. And then they would hunt us across the stars until one species ended." "Not efficient." Susan shared this with Admiral Reed, who laughed for the first time in months. "They understand us better than the Council did," she said. Earth continued to change too. Council technology transformed daily life. Alien art and music became popular. Humans traveled to other worlds in the Alliance, and aliens visited Earth in growing numbers, but the defense fleet remained strong. The boundary patrols constant. Humanity had learned from the Council's mistake. Peace required vigilance. 5 years after first contact, a memorial was unveiled in Geneva, where the original treaty had been signed. It showed a human hand and a crystalline Council appendage reaching toward each other. The inscription read, "Different paths, same stars." Jack Wilson attended the ceremony with his daughter Kate and her husband Ryan. As the speeches finished, Kate took her father's arm. "Do you think we'll ever truly understand the void?" she asked. Jack looked up at the night sky where the first stars were becoming visible. "Maybe not. But they understand us. Sometimes that's enough." As darkness fell, Earth's lights shone brightly, visible from space, a beacon of life among the stars. On the distant boundary between Council and Void territory, ships from both sides maintained their silent watch, neither retreating nor advancing. Two predator species, having recognized themselves in each other, kept their distance and their peace. And the Galactic Council, which had once known only fear, learned from humanity a different way to face the darkness.